Hello.
Hi.
I'm Celeste, and I'm here with a member of our coven who we don't get to see too often, but we're happy whenever she comes around. This is Heather.
Hi, nice to meet everybody.
And we are here to talk about a really fun, historical true crime.
We are going to be discussing Guilia Tofana from the mid-1700s, who was a wonderful cosmetic company owner.
Yeah, so a little bit about her background. She was born, they think, around 1620, possibly the later 1600s.
Yeah.
The records are a little vague, but she was born in Palermo, Italy, and she had an unorthodox method of running her cosmetics business.
Yes, it was unorthodox. She basically, any aspiring businesswoman, she came up with cosmetics because, well, women, we live for beauty products.
Right.
That's just what we do. And through her journey of having her business, she, like many businesswomen, came across customers who would come in and talk about their problems and their issues. And being that it was the mid-1700s, the biggest complaint was men.
Yes.
Biggest complaint, which hasn't changed to this date, men are still the problem. But they would come in and basically, gossip and talk about their issues. And back then, 1700s, mid-1700s, century.
Yeah.
It was an arranged marriage. You couldn't say no. You had no say.
Basically, women had three options back in the day. They were either more or less sold or auctioned off to somebody, or they could remain single, but then they were probably sex workers.
And considered a spinster.
Yes.
And that was a no-no back then. That was not a good title.
No, or they had to turn to something like sex work to support themselves, which was also not an easy or good life at the time. And the other option was to be a wealthy widow.
Yes. So, of course.
Starting to look good.
I know. Hello. But she, through the gossip, she wanted to help these women.
Yeah.
They would talk about being abused, cheated on, just treated poorly. And divorce was a no-no. You don't divorce back then.
You can't. And your husband could treat you however. It was not illegal to beat or abuse your wife in any way.
Oh, yeah. You could do it out in public. I mean,
a lot of people had very unhappy marriages at the time.
So, in the conversation, though, she wanted to help other women. Women empowerment, basically, in a way.
Yes.
So,
and along the way became what could be considered one of the most prolific serial killers of all time.
Female serial killers on top of it, yes. I think one of the few women serial killers that actually,
Yeah, there's a few, but not that
but
many.
not like her.
No. Elizabeth Bathory stands out,
There was
Eileen Wuornos, but
if you go back to her time, it was, if there were women, they called them baby farmers.
Yeah.
And those were just orphanages that bought your children.
Right.
And that was really all you heard of.
Or sometimes, people caring for older people would get rid of them.
Yes, just
like that.
Yeah.
But
she took it to a new level.
She really did. And so a little bit about her history. I was trying to look into her, and it was really hard to determine, but it is thought by, popular belief is that her mother was known as Tofana d'Amato. And there's something that foreshadowed her future profession. So Tofana was executed in 1733.
We were off just a little bit, but that's okay. I mean, she could still be alive.
Yeah. No, that was for the murder of her husband, utilizing poison.
I was going to say, they did stipulate that poisoning ran in the family business.
Yeah, so it's not 100% sure that was her mother, but we're thinking that it was because a lot of the times the naming would go that the name was after the child's last name would be after the parent's first name.
Yes.
So that's one of the reasons they think that. Also, the timeline and the location adds up.
Everything, it all falls into place.
But I don't want to say something as fact if we're not sure. So it's speculation, but it's popular belief.
Yeah, it's very much a popular belief. They really feel that this was something that, worked its way down generations. However, her mother supposedly had poisoned her husband, but with Guilia Tofana, when she opened up her cosmetic line, she knew what she wanted to do. And so she created makeup using the same substances that they claimed her mother used.
Yeah.
Which was arsenic, lead, and belladonna.
Yes.
Which I'm sure everybody has heard of belladonna if they've watched Practical Magic.
Yeah, and it was very
That's a
popular
big thing.
in cosmetics at the time. But
Yes.
you gotta get it just right on the dosing.
Right, because back then, belladonna was said to your pupils. It dilates your pupils,
Yeah.
which back in that time was considered a form of beauty. It was with the eyes, your dilated pupils. It supposedly
Probably the only way your wife likes you is if she's on something.
if you're like you're treating her like garbage. But belladonna was actually used for quite a bit back then.
Yeah.
You could use it for relaxation. You could use it for medicinal purposes, if the right way.
Right.
And also for your natural beauty with the dilated pupils. I'm going to pass on the dilated pupils, though.
Yeah,
I
I was
don't...
gonna say, if my pupils are dilated, there's probably not a good reason for it.
Yeah, and
I'm
it's-
probably not going to make the best decisions or be the best partner. So.
And it's definitely not going to be caused by belladonna. Just saying.
So Julia went on to get married herself. She had a daughter,
Mhm.
and she eventually became widowed. I don't know the circumstances of that.
That you can't find because some people say that her husband died.
Yeah.
Some do say that he died. Others lean on the fact that because of what she was caught doing.
Yeah.
They feel that she could have poisoned her husband.
Yeah.
Or it could have been natural causes.
Yeah,
Nobody
we
knows.
don't know. Yeah,
Nobody knows.
Nobody really kept records back then. So she moved away from Palermo with her daughter, Girolama Spara, to Naples and later to Rome. And it was here in Rome that Julia started her business selling poison cosmetics.
And when she did start, it was just a cosmetic front. Or not a front, I should say it was a cosmetic store, which then she used as a front for her side business.
Yeah, so she had the help of her daughter.
Mm-hmm. And she had a few workers as
Yeah,
well.
a group of other women.
Mm-hmm.
And she became known as someone who could help women.
In need.
Yeah, who were troubled women who wanted to escape difficult situations. And they were saying there was also a possible connection she had to a priest who would help her as well.
Yes.
So that's unconfirmed, but
They say that she was seeking some sort of a religious, like just a religious person almost, where she could go and confide, and they would also talk to her about issues as well.
right, and that's someone that could send troubled women her way. If
Yes.
they're confessing that their husband's being awful to them.
And they're having a horrible marriage. Yes.
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 But that's someone that they think could have been her supplier for arsenic,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't know. Either way, she soon had a booming business marketing cosmetic known as,
Aqua Tofana.
yes, it was a face cream or oil for women who wanted to be single. So,
Yes, it started originally as a powdered compact, but in that shape and that form, she realized that it was harder to use.
Yeah.
You can't hide powder compact in anything. So she rebranded in a way and produced a serum. As many women who do the makeup and skincare, a serum is not noticeable. It's just a bottle with a dropper.
Yep, it blended in with any other cosmetic, so it was a small bottle. It had an image of St. Nicholas on the front. It could pass as an ordinary run-of-the-mill cosmetic bottle and didn't look like it contained the deadly tonic that it turned out to have.
And these women, because it was in liquid form, as you said, they hid it amongst their lotion, beauty products, and whatnot. And then when they would go to make dinner for their husbands or a drink, they were told to do it. You could do it a little at a time and make them sick so it wasn't as noticeable that you were killing your
Yeah,
husband.
so they're saying the first dose makes them sick.
Mm-hmm.
Then it would take, it was colorless, tasteless.
Odorless.
Yes, odorless, could kill a man with just 4 to 6 drops.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't detectable after death because the symptoms of it looked like an illness. It took a couple days for the victim to die. So It was given through any kind of liquid that they would take, and the first dose would exhaust and weaken the victim.
And then after that is when they would show signs of actual sickness.
Yeah.
They would become weak, they'd become faint.
Thirsty, dysentery, stomach aches, vomiting.
Basically, the 17th century version of COVID is what they would experience. And it was just like everyday symptoms that just progressively got worse. Right.
But the second dose was what would give them, that would scare them. They'd be like, okay, think I might die. That would give them time to get their affairs in order, make sure their doting, worried, loving wife got all of their money
that they cared about.
Yes. And then the third or fourth dose would kill them.
That inevitably was. And they made sure, because if you gave too much at once, they would just die, which was something that would be questioned.
Right.
So
why would this healthy person just die?
So they learned that if you do dosing smaller day after day, it would finally add up and the person would die, and it would seem natural because they were sick for so long, and in that time, doctors weren't what they are now.
Right.
So to them, it was just failing health.
Yeah, and they didn't have an explanation for a lot of illnesses.
No.
So it was just this person died. And what it was actually officially labeled as Manna of St. Nicholas of Bari, which was a healing oil for blemishes that was used at the time, but everybody popularly called it Aqua Tofana.
Aqua Tofana. Well, and they did that because, yes, because it became so widely known. There was no other name for it to go by.
Yeah. And so even when these people died, even on the few times where there was like a postmortem examination, nothing was found that could implicate her. And sometimes even the new widow would demand this. It would make her look better to demand, I demand you figure out what killed my husband.
Their
this
version.
Grieving woman would demand it, and they couldn't find anything, and that actually helped clear her name of any suspicion. She could live a relatively free life from then on, and even form a new relationship in a couple years after like a suitable mourning period. And so it was actually a very appealing to it at a time where women were sold off basically into marriages that they didn't want to be in, to kind of get rid of the guy, and then they could either live by themselves
remarry or yes. Which, and what's funny is these women would, in essence, take care of their husbands. And like you said, some would remarry, some may not. And when you look at Guilia, she never got married again. It said that she just didn't like men after her first marriage. That's debatable though. That nobody knows for certain, but they say that that's why she didn't remarry. However, a lot of these women that asked for her help in order to kill their husbands, a lot of them did have other suitors in mind for themselves.
And I think at that point, once they had their husband's fortune, they had financial freedom, so they were not desperate to make a marriage. They could find someone that they actually had a real equal relationship with.
They actually had a connection,
Yeah, not just married off to somebody.
They actually had a choice. And for the first time in their life, like you said, financial stability.
And I'm not advocating for murdering your husband whatsoever.
No.
But I think that given the options at a time, I can understand why so many people did it.
Well, if you think about it, because back then, divorce was not heard of.
No, you can't just divorce your husband.
That was just, it wasn't going to happen. There was nobody that would help you with that. Your family, it didn't matter if
take you back.
You could be beat, you could be harmed in so many ways, but you had to stay with your husband.
Yeah, that's your husband now. That's the person that's providing for you
for the rest of your life.
Right.
I mean, and it's just what it was. And they were saying that over 100 women came in and actually asked for her help.
Yeah,
in such a small, I mean, at the time, population is smaller, but all these women were in the same boat. They were all so unhappy.
Yeah, Guilia had a very successful business for a couple of decades.
Yes,
this went on for a long time until around 19... Why do I keep saying 19?
Because
1650.
It's because we're in the year 2000.
Yeah, I'm like, so... What?
I think her business went for almost 50 years.
Something like that. She had
About 50
they're estimating,
years.
there's different estimates because I saw one thing that said she was born in 1720 or something like
Yes.
that. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense if, you know, how that young, her daughter was old enough to help her with business. No,
Yeah.
the timeline doesn't add up. So
Everything
there's a lot
is-
of, like, leeway on the dates and
For
time
her
ranges here.
dates and locations, it's very hard because she helps so many women
Yeah.
that all these women, they're dispersed. They're all over, and all these women ended up being questioned, vast majority of them, and everybody had a little bit of a different version.
Yeah.
So everything that's accumulated over the years is still spotty. There's
Right,
no
yeah.
exact
No, but this
anything.
is all estimates. So
Mhm.
at this time, a woman, one of her customers, laced her husband's soup with some good old Aqua Tofana.
Yes. And then
But yeah,
she had second thoughts. She had inner guilt or something that built
attack of
up.
conscience or cold feet about it. Whatever she did,
Yes.
she suddenly stopped and she's like, "Don't eat that. Don't eat it."
Yeah, she served him his hot bowl of soup with Aqua Tofana, and just before he could eat it, something told her and to not do it, and
Yeah,
she stopped him.
And of course, he was really suspicious as to why she was begging him not to eat it. So, as the story goes, he like abused her until she confessed to having poisoned the soup.
And then that is where she told her husband about Aqua Tofana
Yeah.
and where it came from and everything
He actually
behind it.
turned her into the authorities after this, and they interrogated her in not so nice ways until she gave up Guilia Tofana.
Yes. And the interrogation techniques, just so everybody gets an idea, if you take the worst case scenario you hear nowadays about like these interrogations from hell, basically, she endured that amongst, because of the era, physical abuse and
Torture.
it
She
was
was
tortured. They tortured you until you spilled the beans, because that's just what they did. And being a woman puts you that much lower.
Yeah, she
on
should
that
have just let her
totem
husband
pole.
eat the first bowl, but not given him any more.
That's how I felt before.
Just humble him a little bit with some illness.
Just give him a little bit of diarrhea. Call it a day.
You know, because at that point she really, I mean, I'm sure she was put to death for that or something. Or
I believe, from the things that I was pulling up, from the sounds of it, she was executed.
Yeah.
Not 100% sure. It's just, again, speculation. But the reason that they say that she was executed is, in the end of everything, any woman that had handled Aqua Tofana for the purpose of causing their husband an illness, we'll say, they were either, they were all put to death in some way, shape, or form. And if they weren't, there's only a handful, they say, that were imprisoned.
yeah, they said the wealthier ones ended up, so all of the lower income ones all put to death. The
Yes.
wealthier ones were able to sometimes claim, I didn't know what it was, and they got away with it. A lot of people were never caught.
Yes.
And some people were just put in prison for a while if they were wealthy.
Because they say that they could buy, they call it buying their freedom.
Yeah.
Because,
Upper class people could do that.
yes, all you had to do was, I'm part of this family or this, royalties.
Yeah.
And they would jail you. Whereas what would be considered middle class nowadays, back then, was you were just poor.
Yeah.
There was no lower class, middle class, and the upper class. You were either royalty.
Yeah. There's a lot of
you were
income disparity.
yeah.
Yeah. So when she confessed, Julia heard that the authorities were coming for her.
Yes.
So she went to a local church and asked for sanctuary. And she was given sanctuary
She
for a while.
was, until that's when rumors basically spread.
Everyone had heard about
Everybody.
Aqua Tofana, and they heard that she was in this church. Suddenly there was a rumor that she was using Aqua Tofana to poison the water supply.
And the water supply, yes, it went from she was killing men to help battered women to she was poisoning the water
Yes.
for the whole town.
Right, which was just a rumor, but this caused everyone to panic. The scared and angry citizens stormed the church, and she was taken into
And that
custody.
is when there was no more asking for sanctuary at that point. It was so many people, basically like a mob of people.
Yeah, they couldn't stop. The church was not able to stop the mob of people coming in and taking her out.
Yeah. So, and then that was basically the end of her freedom in every way, shape, or form.
Right.
Because that was
it. Tortured in custody, and she did confess to having been responsible for the deaths of as many as 600 men.
Yes.
From, she said, the era of 1633 about to 1651. That was one of the estimates.
Yes.
Yeah, so, a couple decades at least.
And the funny thing that I came across, which again it's speculation, is that she did supposedly kill over 600 men, but had only helped the same 100 and so of women. So it was kind of sounding like she had repeat customers.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, but the numbers, yeah, it was.
Maybe she downplayed her customers, but
to probably keep them safe.
Yeah.
But these were the numbers that I had,
Yeah, these were
come
the
across.
people, the names she could give or something
Or
like that.
ones that they had already known about, and so she kind of,
but
let that cat out of the bag.
Someone from 20 years before, might not even be alive still to go after. She wouldn't remember their names, nothing
and
like that.
She didn't keep record. There was no record of sales or anything like that. She literally, her cosmetic store was, she just made cosmetics, put them on her shelves, sold them, things like that. She wasn't a record keeper.
Yeah.
So
we don't know.
We're not sure. I mean, she sold makeup, and then she sold Aqua Tofana.
Yeah.
And there's just no record keeping.
No.
So, I mean, to this day, somebody could have an Aqua Tofana bottle and not even know it because she just sold.
Yeah.
That was what she did. She was a businesswoman.
And it could have been either one.
Mm-hmm.
So she was finally executed in Rome in 1659 along with her daughter and 3 of her helpers.
Because guilt by association, of course. So if one knew, they all must have known.
And here's a quick view of the square in which she was executed. So this is the Campo dei Fiori, and this was a popular execution site at the time. And this was actually where Guilia Tofana was executed along with her daughter and her 3 employees. Pretty sure it looked a bit different at the time. But this is the place in Rome. That's a statue of a famous philosopher. Unfortunately, I can't walk around too much. But it's weird thinking how many people are probably walking through here not realizing that there were a lot of executions that took place here. It's kind of an eerie thought. So, in addition to Aqua Tofana dying, over 400 of the lower class women who Guilia Tofana. Aqua Tofana.
She should have just given it her first and last name. It would have been much easier. Instead,
we drink less blood.
It's getting to my brain.
Definitely getting to my brain. Anyway, so 40 women who were lower class that she had helped murder their husbands were also executed. With regards to her higher ranking patrons, as we said, most of them were able to get away with just imprisonment, and many were never punished at all.
Because they weren't found.
Or they claimed that they never knew that her cosmetics were actually poison.
Which I love that, though. I love the people that stood by saying that they had no idea.
Right.
For the simple fact, you had to specifically ask
for
Aqua Tofana.
And even if they did kill their husband with it, and it was probably sometime before, they were still like, I didn't know. I just had this perfume or makeup bottle and
that was it.
Yeah.
Or they just stood by the fact that they didn't know what had caused their husband's death. I mean, that's what a lot of them did do.
Right.
And if they had the bottle, let's be honest, they weren't showing anybody.
Yeah. And if they were rich enough, they probably passed him some money and said, I didn't know, and that was that.
Yep. Because as in nowadays, and then you could always buy, certain aspects
of certain kinds of trouble. Yeah.
Yes.
So There are some reports that Giulia's business continued into the 1700s instead of ending in 1651. And there are even rumors that it was her poison that was responsible for the death of
Mozart.
Yes, so this weird rumor about Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, the famous composer, he died in 1791 at the age of 35.
And that was years and years and years after they had already executed Giulia.
Like 100 years, more than 100 years.
But because of what she did, it was something that stuck out in everybody's head. She became almost a living legend in a sense. Guilia Tofana and Aqua Tofana, it's a legend. It became a living legend. And Mozart was in the midst of writing one of his pieces, and he became deathly ill.
Yeah.
And it is said that on his deathbed, he declared that Aqua Tofana was what was killing him.
Right. And so it's uncertain how he died, but poisoning's unlikely. But he believed that it was Aqua Tofana. And since he died so many years after her, and she never wrote down the recipe for Aqua Tofana. So
they think that it was just because of what it was, because of how many men had been killed and things like that. It was such an issue that when he got sick, the first thing he thought of was women wanting to kill men.
Yeah.
And to this day, they can't even tell you really what caused Mozart's death, but he died.
They think it might have been liver failure. There's a whole bunch of things that they think it may have been.
But when he died, he really felt it was Aqua Tofana, but yet he couldn't tell you, supposedly, he couldn't even tell you who he thought would have poisoned him.
Right.
But he knew it was Aqua Tofana in his heart of hearts. But her legend carried through.
Yeah.
All the way to Mozart. I mean...
Yeah, it's still at the time such a relevant subject that it was something that sort of lived in the subconscious minds of people as a threat.
Because if they didn't know it was causing them to be sick, it was easier to put blame on something that already had such...
It was a boogeyman.
Yes, it was their version of the boogeyman, and when you became ill for him, it was so much easier to blame it on something else versus, you're just getting old or you have other issues.
He was only 35, so I think it may have been related to his use of alcohol or something like that.
Well, and if you think
or other illnesses.
Back then, lead was in everything.
Yeah, he could have, there's so many things that could have caused his death. He wasn't living a healthy lifestyle for sure.
No, he definitely, that was, But it could have been drinking. It could have been era as well. Opium. It could have been their version of not so healthy alcohol.
Yeah, somebody could have poisoned him. It was like...
But it wasn't Giulia.
Yeah,
it definitely was not.
But yeah, I love how that legend lives on. And it's not something that's like in our consciousness these days. Nobody talks about Aqua Tofana.
No. Well, and if you think about it too, though, so many people don't even know that there are women serial killers. Yeah. And so it's like Aqua Tofana is like a legend that if you're not looking, you won't even find it.
She's different in that I don't know that she necessarily had like a fetish for killing men or anything. I think it was just a service, which with the side effect of killing people.
I feel like my opinion, I feel like she came from a marriage that was unhealthy. Her husband passed away. We don't know how, we don't know how, but I feel like she came from a bad marriage. Then she opens up a business with her daughter amongst, the other workers. And when women started coming in and just confiding in her, I feel like part of her was like, I know where you've been. I can help you.
Yeah, I know how to solve this.
And that to me is when she, came up with the concoction.
Yeah, and if it was her mother that had also killed her father, that would make more sense too. So, what was the actual quote that Mozart said?
So, it is stated that Mozart said, I feel definitely that I will not last much longer. I am sure I've been poisoned. He also claimed, someone has given me Aqua Tofana and calculated the precise time of my death.
Oh, that's kind of eerie. I don't believe it, but it's eerie.
It is eerie. I don't believe it either, but the idea that he felt so deeply.
Yeah.
I mean, it's scary that he really thought somebody timed his death.
Right.
Like, they were there counting down. I mean, to me, that would be the scariest thing. You know you're dying, and you're telling yourself that this is why, instead of just,
right.
like, gradually, you know, as you become ill, everything happens naturally.
Right.
In a way, I do feel bad for the man, because
oh, yeah.
he really was telling himself, like, I'm not supposed to be dying. Somebody's killing me. They're timing this. I mean, in all actuality, he made his passing much rougher on himself.
Oh, yeah.
Than anything, just from the legend of Aqua Tofana. And that, to me, it blows my mind. It really does.
Yeah, this has been a really interesting case. Thanks for bringing this. She was the one that suggested we cover Guilia Tofana, and it was really fun to research and talk about.
I thought, honestly, because you don't hear about women serial killers.
Yeah.
And to me, I am somebody that, I'm into makeup and skincare and all of that. And to come across a woman that used cosmetics as one, yes, it was her business, but a front as well to poison men, I enjoyed. I got sucked into it. I needed to know about this woman.
Yes.
Like, she was like the caped crusader during the Renaissance. Like,
right. And see, I'm really not trying to glorify killers or serial killers in any way. But there's something very fascinating, like the side effect was murder, but of wanting to help other women out of bad situations, I understand that.
That I get. I mean, to the extent
and the way she
went,
did it was very, very interesting and very
it was
clever.
well thought up.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
And that's another reason why, for myself, I really feel that this was something that was generationally passed down. Because she just, to come up with a concoction like that, and for it to work so well, so fast.
Yeah.
I feel like this was something that was passed down, and she used her knowledge to help other women, because at that time that she felt that that was the only way to do it. Which, killing is, it's a no. There are other underlying issues if you go that far.
Yeah, and there maybe not have been a way out then, but
there
now,
is now. Correct.
Yeah.
But you have to, I mean, she opened a business, and next thing you know, she
and she had many successful years as
she had a side hustle like no other.
Yeah, and that it's amazing that it took over 20 years for someone to turn her in, basically.
And the only reason was somebody actually, I don't want to say they got cold feet, but it was almost like this woman realized, like, you know, I can't kill you.
Yeah, like what am I doing? Like, she had this moment of, like, stepped outside herself and was like, I can't go through with this.
She looked at all of it, and because of that, I mean, unfortunately, you know, it is said that her husband beat the truth out of her, but it lasted. If this woman wouldn't have said anything,
she might never have been caught.
She may not. And if she wasn't caught, was this something that she could have passed down to her daughter?
Yeah, I mean, and her daughter probably was part of the business, so she would have continued it after her death had she also not been put to death.
Which is the sad thing. Like, in the end, the worst thing about the whole thing, we had, I would like to say innocent men die. But we don't know. But we had men dying. We had women who were inevitably put to death because they took care of their problem the wrong way.
Yeah.
And then you may have also had the workers. Were they innocent? Did they know? So did we have innocent people die as well?
I believe they knew, because I don't think it was possible not to know.
Right.
But at the same time, it was like, and it really comes down to the systems they had in place at the time, and that was the culprit, because desperate people will do desperate things.
Yes.
And so it was the unable to leave a bad situation that created the desperation. And then it evolved. And then created somebody saying, hey, this desperation is a business opportunity for me.
Right. Let's just, capitalize on it.
But thanks for talking with me about this today.
This was so much fun. Thank you. I hope to
we'll
be back again
soon.
Bye.